Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the number of books that you want to read? There's all these choices and so little time. I want to talk today about a couple of strategies on deciding how to invest your time reading. I've read over 500 nonfiction books, and with each passing book, it becomes even more clear that choosing a next book to read is difficult. There are many great books out there, as well as a minefield of not so great books that you will want to move past as quickly as possible and sort from those really great ones that are worth reading. And there are several strategies that I've heard people talk about and have used myself for deciding what to read. You can follow the rule of reading the first 100 minus X pages, where X is your age. So if you're 30, you have to read the first 70 pages to decide if it's worth it before giving up. But this can take a bit of time. You can also read the book entirely regardless of whether it's good or not. And this used to be my default method. As a principal, I would read a whole book because I had started it and I felt that I was committed to the author. But I find less and less value in this strategy, as I've talked about in the video on effective reading. Another strategy that I like to use a lot is listening to podcasts whenever an author is doing their book tour for the book launch, because you're going to get a lot of insights into what the main talking points or the most interesting talking points are. This can be a good method for finding new books, but I do think it's worth mentioning that when these authors are talking about their books in podcasts, they are strategizing to make the book seem as enticing as possible, which is totally fair because selling books is a hard business. So before getting sucked into a book that is maybe a rehash of things that you already know, I would add reading a highly regarded book and chapter summary, like the ones that are written by the professionals at Shortform. And so I want to talk about this last option because Shortform has partnered with this channel as a valuable tool for getting more out of the books you read. Shortform allows you to learn great ideas quickly and efficiently, and it's also great for deciding which books are worth reading in the first place. So I want to talk about an overview of what Shortform is, as well as dive into some of my favorite features as I've been going through this app and experimenting with how it's working for my reading process to learn more from the books that I read. Shortform offers comprehensive summaries for nonfiction books, as well as comprehensive coverage of important topics related to world news, so you don't have to get sucked into news pages to figure out what's going on in the world. Reading the one-page summary is one of the strategies that I start with if deciding to buy a book and read it in full is worth it. Seth Godin talks about once he gets the joke, he stops reading a book. Using Shortform gets me to that punchline of what the book is about quickly, so I can determine if anything stands out that's worthy of further investigation, or if it's similar to something that's already on my bookshelf. And what's great that I haven't seen with other services like this before is that Shortform then goes into a chapter by chapter summary of the book. You can fully comprehend the thousands of books on their platform instead of just getting a 15-minute summary that's an overview of the whole book. So these chapter by chapter summaries have really raised the quality of the experience and what you learn from their book summaries by having these chapter summaries in addition to the overview. And it allows you to go much further in depth in your learning and understanding of the topic of the material in the books that you've read. Whether you want to go back and review a book that you've read and get another person's point of view by these chapter summaries with Shortform, or if you need to get to the point of a book and you don't have time to read through the whole thing, then you can rely on these chapter summaries and book summaries from Shortform to get the point quickly. And another thing that really helps with this is the audio for the books that Shortform offers. They don't just have written summaries, they also have audio for all of their book summaries, so you can listen to them on the go or while reading simultaneously, which is something that I like to do to process the information in two different ways. So many users find this is very helpful to have. I much prefer reading than listening to books, but find that sometimes listening to these book summaries is a different and more useful experience than just listening to an audiobook version of the whole book. Because these summaries get to the point much quicker, I get an idea and a better picture of what this whole topic is, rather than the pacing of the entire audiobook, where you can get lost in the minor details of each page. And they've really done a great job to take active learning to the next level. Active reading and active learning is much better for remembering and understanding concepts than the passive reading that most of us get stuck in. Something that Shortform excels with is offering guides and exercise questions about each of the books, and this is a great way to understand more from the books that you read and apply it to your own life. It's kind of like having your own journal prompts and reflection questions for each book that you read. Even if you go on to read the whole book, I find that accompanying the book with these active learning questions is amazing to do for really knowing the information at a deep level. And with these reflection questions, it also allows you to save your notes on the book. So I find not only is this great if I'm listening to something or reading the book on Shortform, but any other books that I've read, it just allows me to go in, do just these exercises and reflection questions, and get a deeper level of understanding to show that I know what I actually read and am retaining that information. So I go through these questions to further solidify my understanding of the content, and I love that they include these. Another really cool thing that they include is contrasting perspectives and counterpoints. The Shortform writers also link and pull in counterpoints to the highlights that you are reading and the summaries that you're reading from books. So this is a helpful way to get a more complete picture of the different perspectives on a topic and not getting stuck in the dogma of one author. And then another thing that helps to go further with this is community discussion. With each book, you have the opportunity to start your own book club, basically, and there's a community discussing the books and the topics further that you can kind of go in and share your own thoughts with. So if you learn best by teaching or discussing and debating, this is another awesome way to improve that active learning process when using Shortform. And if you use Readwise to sync all of your book notes and highlights from articles and anything that you read online into one second brain, like I've talked about in the video on effective reading, then you're going to also love that Shortform has a Readwise integration, so you can sync your highlights from the notes that you take into whichever app that you store information like Notion or Evernote. And so this also allows you to use that spaced repetition strategy to recall more information using Shortform with Readwise. And there are thousands of books already in the Shortform catalog, with more coming each week. 3 of the categories that I've been digging into the most are the self-improvement category, psychology, as well as business and entrepreneurship. So there is a wide range of topics depending on what you're interested in learning and connecting information between. Recently, I was reading a tweet from Matt Ragland talking about Dotcom Secrets as being one of his top books for creatives. I knew that I had read one of Russell Branson's books before, but I had a hard time remembering which one it was because it's been a few years. So I went into the Shortform summary for Traffic Secrets and Dotcom Secrets to figure out that answer. I find that Russell's content overlaps a lot with Alex Hormozi, and I've been rereading both of the 100 Million Offers and Leads books, so I didn't want to have to go through the whole Traffic Secrets again. So I went through the Shortform summary and I got the main ideas, and it sparked from memory that I had read this book before, but I loved that they pulled in contradictory and supportive points from other books. They were referencing Seth Godin in this one in particular on some of his information on marketing and where it contrasts with what Russell was saying. Because they have such a comprehensive catalog of books, one of my all-time favorites, Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, is in there. And I love that there's those discussion questions and the exercises on each of the chapters from Flow. Because the book was written several decades ago, this updated short form summary really allows you to better understand your own flow states and what we've come to learn about peak experiences and flow since that book was written in the 90s. So this summary brings together in a comprehensive way with more modern understanding of peak experiences and flow what we knew when Mihai wrote the book. And as I mentioned, they include the ability to quickly learn about topics. So not only do they have these book guides, but they have what they call key topic analysis. So you can stay up to date on important topics in the news without falling into that depressing sinkhole of most news platforms where you get stuck doom scrolling through all the negative news. Things that I've gone through lately are topics like why are Americans so lonely? The economics of lab-grown meat, which was a really cool one because I find that to be a really interesting topic, and some information about consumers cutting spending and how retailers are reacting to that. So these articles pull in different perspectives and news sources, giving you a more nuanced perspective of the topic, just like the book guides do. And Shortform drops and publishes new book guides and articles every week. One of the best things about subscribing to the platform is that you get to vote on which books to cover. So if there's a new release that you're thinking about buying and you want a summary of it first, you can vote on it. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Shortform is partnered with this channel, and to get 5 days of unlimited access, as well as an additional 20% discount on the annual subscription, which is going to save you around $130, you can join Shortform through my special link or the QR code that's on the screen now. Shortform gives you access to thousands of high-quality book guides to learn from for the cost of about one book a month.